Okay, great. Well, first, I'd just like to say how excited I am to be at Morel Todd Homes. This is kind of a special place. Reverend Todd was one of I would say, my mentors being on the board, and it's an honor to be in a community named after him, and I look forward to seeing the presentation of kind of the history of the community formerly named Morton Simpson. So looking forward to that later. But first, we'll start with a roll call. Let's see, we'll start with Commissioner Lewis.
Here.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. I know she's present on Zoom. She was chimed in. And Chairman Hood. All right. Council, I believe we have a quorum, do we not? Yes. Okay. So let's start. I believe we have the agenda before us in the board packet, and I'd like to, if there's no discussion about the agenda, entertain a motion to approve the July agenda as proposed in the board packet.
I make a motion to accept the board packet as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is approved. The agenda is adopted. Next, I'd like to review the minutes for all those that have seen them for the regular meeting of June 16, 2022, as put forth in the board packet. If there is no discussion, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the June board minutes.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. The minutes for June are hereby accepted and approved. That moves us on to old business. Does anyone have any old business they wish to discuss?
I have 2 items I want to bring to old business.
All right.
Okay. I wanted to share from our previous board meeting on last month at Smithfield. We wanted to bring to the audience as it relates to the engagement of our youth with World Games. Last month, we shared that the youth partnered with USFL and the World Games to beautify Illiton Village. So that was part of their participation, and also to share that they did welcome kits for the World Games athletes, and also had the opportunity to engage in all the sport activities that were engaged throughout that week. We want to thank County Commissioner Sheila Tyson. She provided those tickets for us, and also had the opportunity to engage in activities at the World Plaza and the City Walk. And I must say, if you visit our website, you'll see the enjoyment that our youth had during that time. And this participation took place during the summer camp hours. The other thing I wanted to share in old business is when we had our meeting last month, we had residents come before us with some concerns. And Ms. Noley had a concern about the safety and drug activity that was around her unit. So we did have staff to investigate, and there were no findings, relates to what was brought before us. But we did speak with Ms. Noley, and also due to the delicate situation with Ms. Noley, we provided her resources, to assist her, with things that she brought, to our attention. And there were 2 other residents, Mr. Moore and Ms. Castleberry. They came before us as it relates to the AC unit. The AC unit was down at the time. We know how extremely hot it is, so we did address those issues, and those, they're completely repaired. And Mr. Moore had a concern as it relates to his washer drain issue. The packing nut was loose on the faucet, has been took care of that day. But we do want to share that, we do have received issues and concerns related to the AC unit, and want to share that we are addressing those as they come to us, but to know that there are parts that are on back order that we're waiting on. But if there's a heavy concern and your unit's hot, we do provide window units until your AC unit's repaired. So there, you just share with your property manager, and then we'll get those addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Any other old business? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, and I'm happy to start that. One item I would like for us to address moving forward is the use of a consent agenda at our board meetings. And, we need to follow the Robert's Rules of Order, and I'll rely on our general counsel for the proper protocols and moving forward with that. But if Chairman Hood and the rest of the board agrees with the concept, I'd at least like to try that out at the next meeting and see how that works. And obviously we can maybe see a proposal from our council on what items would be appropriate for said consent agenda at this time. But I think it might help us provide more time for dialogue about matters of, true import and less so about matters that we might be able to address in the board packet and are more routine. And that also might provide more time for individuals who wish to speak before the board at our meetings. So I'd like to consider that, and we'll just leave that out there for now, and maybe over the next 30 days, we can discuss that more.
Thank you. We'll work with the legal team in identifying those items and moving forward.
Any other new business? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the president and CEO's. No more new business up here. All right, we'll talk later if we need to have some talks at the podium. So no new business anymore. We'll move on to the president and CEO's report.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'll present to you the president and CEO's report. I would first like to share the reorganization structure. The agency was completed on July 1st, 2022. We are currently reviewing the structure of the community engagement department and currently reviewing external candidates for the remaining vacancies that are currently on our org chart. And in addition to that, we have a list of top level positions that that has been shared with the board and is currently posting. So if you go on our website, you'll see some of those positions posted on our website. Along with that, we held an employee team building event, and that was on Wednesday, July 6th, and that was on the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. And that meeting was to celebrate the new roles of the internal staff and also discuss some updates and next steps where we're headed within the agency. And that following week, we had another training. We had employee training, which was held Thursday, July 14th, and that was hosted by Kimberly Webster. And she discussed the growth and change in the agency and how to empower the team under new leadership. We got great feedback from the staff and as it relates to the engagement that was performed in those two initiatives. HABD submitted the fiscal year 2023 annual plan. And this plan was required to be reviewed and approved by HUD. So we're happy to announce that a plan was approved by HUD and presented to us on June 27, 2022, which allows us to move forward with our goals and initiative as outlined in the plan. That plan is also on our website if you'd like to identify things and see what's going on in your community. HABD applied on July 18, 2022 for the renewal of the Resident Opportunity Self-Sufficiency Coordinator. We call that our ROS grant. We currently have 3 coordinators. They're on Illerton Village, Kimbrough Homes, and Cooper Green sites. This is a grant that covers 3 years, and it provides resources to our residents, as it relates to their needs. What we do is assess the needs of the community, and those coordinators are on site to assist with those resources. Also, HAB is pleased to announce the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Village at Titusville. Many of us know that as Lovement Village. We're very excited about the final phase. Our on-site phase 2 is scheduled for Friday, July 22nd, 2022. This event is at 10 o'clock a.m. We're trying to beat the heat, so we're trying to have it early. This is, again, the final phase for the completion of the property. This phase consists of 64 units with 2 to 3 bedroom units mixed. It serves 7 of those units are designated for our veterans. So we encourage you to come out and participate in that event. At this time, we want to send our sincere condolences to the families of 2 individuals. One is a employee. Her name is Donna Allen. She was our housing specialist at Smithfield Court, and she was with the agency for 4 years. And also Ms. Gloria Sanders. She's our Smithfield Resident Council President, and she served for 5 years. So our prayers are with those families. And my final item on my report is the Office of Constituent Concerns. This is designed to prioritize the outstanding community concerns and collaborate and cultivate relationships within the community. This Office of Constituent Concerns is produced for our residents. You know, if you have any concerns or issues you want to address within your unit, we ask that you use this initiative to reach out to HABD so that we can address those concerns. And we try to reach out to you within 24 to 48 hours to do that. So if you allow, we want to share a video to kind of share how that works.
Do you have a question or concern? The Housing Authority of the Birmingham District has established the Office of Constituent Concerns. The purpose of the OCC is twofold. One, to listen to the concerns of our clients, who are the residents we serve, and the community. And two, to resolve outstanding issues, especially those involving fair housing. We use a team approach to community problem solving, and here's how it works. A complaint is received via phone or email. OCC staff forwards complaints to the applicable department supervisor. The department supervisor follows up on the complaint within 48 hours, and the president CEO receives the notification of complaint resolution. For questions and concerns, please contact us.
So thank you. Again, if you need to contact the Office of Constituent Concerns, you can reach us by email. I was hoping he had that sitting up there, but email habdcc@habd.net, or you can call the line at 205-521-0773. And we'll have that information for you at your management office if you need it.
Ms. Foster, I thank you for all that. And I know it's somewhat been disseminated in various ways before, but are we getting it on our website and our social media and any other packets sent to our residents, that sort of thing?
Yes, it is. And we're currently working on getting out handout. We had cards to send out to the residents, so we had to redo those cards and waiting on those to come through, and we'll have those to distribute to the residents. But you can go on our website, and we'll continue to push it on our social media so you can be available for, so these contact information can be available for you.
Great.
Okay.
I have one question. Is this, I apologize. I was trying to let Commissioner Thompson know. Is this also used for property managers, or is this just for residents?
This is for the use of our residents.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions about the President CEO's report? Hearing none, let's move on to financial services.
So we have Celine Kashama, our finance manager. She will come forward, and later in her presentation, our finance consultant, Will Lewis, will join her.
Good afternoon, everyone, and commissioners. I'm here to present the financial statement for the, I'm here to present the financial statement for the month ending June 30th, 2022. Okay, and you have in front of us the financial outline for the month. The budget for the revenue was $4,534,254. Even though the budget was only
Yeah.
You cannot hear me? I'm sorry.
I just want to get a little closer to it. There you go.
Okay. Let me start over. Okay, you have in front of you the financial outline for the month of June 2022. The actual for the revenue was $4,534,254,000. But the budget for the same period was only $3,100,944, which is, in a way, it's good. We have more money, no complaint about that. It's due to the fact that we got more capital fund money came in June, than we anticipated. But that doesn't mean it's going to be always more than we budgeted. It changes every month. On the expense, how much did we expend for the month of June? So far, we expended $2,793,580. The budget was on $3,047,167. But we know that June is the end of our fiscal year. So June is going to be changing. Until we produce the actual financial statement, this number for the expense is going to be changing. And that's why we need to remember that June is the month where we do all the adjustment for all the variance we did throughout the year. It's going to be changed in June. So these numbers are going to change as we are closing the fiscal year for 2022. Okay, I just have a small detail of what the difference was for June, because something is stayed the same, but I just need to point out, like I already said, for the revenue, we know that we get more money for the capital fund than we anticipated, which is good. On the expense side, I need to point out the admin expenses. As I said before, those expenses are not final yet until we do the financial audit for the fiscal year. I'm going to talk about the admin for May and June. You see, in May, it was 408,000, but in June, it's 345,000. Did you see that the budget was on 713,000? We are like, we can say we are in the budget by 367,000, okay? That's due to the fact that during the year, we estimate how much we are going to charge for the management fees. And then in June, we are going to do the adjustment. So these numbers are going to go up to match what was really budgeted for the fiscal year. The same for the tenant services. We have only 3 sites have received upfront the money for the fiscal year. We have 3 sites, we have received only 2 quarters for the fiscal year. So I'm just talking to Ms. Barbara, she's going to provide us the budget for 2 months, for 2 quarters. So by the time we finish, we want the Western Council to get the money as soon as they can so that we can close the fiscal year with them. Because right now we are ready for the budget for 23, but we are trying to make sure that everybody is funded for 22 before we can move to 23. Gas, the utility. What can I say about the utility? The bills, the invoice that we are getting right now, it's an estimated bill. When we call the power company, they say, oh, we are still behind. We are still recovering from COVID. We are not fully back in the office. They are still working from home. So we keep on paying. We pay our bills on a cash basis. We pay it as we are receiving them, but it may be covering the period from January or March. But since we don't want to be late, when you bill us, we pay you. But at the end of the fiscal year, that's when we are going to do the accrual. Okay, the same for the maintenance expenses. We budgeted 1,208,000, but so far we have spent on it in June 644,000 due to several things. We are not fully staffed, and so when we are not fully staffed, we are not paying all the salaries and the related benefits. So once we are fully staffed, and then we are going to go back where we need to be. And that's what, remember when we did the consolidated budget of 22, we had brought in 3.5 million as the fair revenue for the site improvements. We have not finished doing all of the site improvement that we budgeted for. So once we budget, we may come back and accrue them to the month they belong. If it's before we finish the financial statement. If we are closed, then just going to accrue them to the new year. So just our timing difference. And then lastly was the protective services. Finally, we have signed a contract with the Birmingham Police Department. So we are starting paying them. So you are going to see some month is going to be more than what we budgeted last year. And then as we are paying them and we are accruing them to the month they belong, that line is going to settle itself and offset itself by the time we finish the financial statement for fiscal year 22. Do you have any questions? I'm sorry, I moved to the charge off. Okay.
Commissioners, any questions on the presentation so far?
I'm sorry.
Budget.
Please go ahead.
Okay. And the second thing I'm going to present are the charge off for the month of June 2022. It's kind of a slow month for us. Usually it's more than this, but it's slow month, so we are thankful for that. I am coming to ask the commissioner for the approval to write off $7,158.57. Of that 7,054 is rent charges. 379 it's rent maintenance charges, and then they are offset by 275 that security deposit. Remember, we do not write off as long as the tenant is in possession of the units. It's only after they moved out, then we can charge off what they owe us. So approval is requested to charge off $7,158 for the month of June 2022.
Any discussion regarding the charge-offs? I'll entertain a motion to approve the charge-offs for June 2022 as proposed.
I make a motion to accept the charge-offs as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Charge-offs are approved. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Okay, now you want to talk to me.
So we'll ask Will Lewis to come forward to assist with the next item.
Okay. Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Everything. I know you guys can't see that, so I'm gonna try to kind of give you a narrative of what we're trying to do here. What you're seeing up here on the board is kind of a narrative of our budget presentation. And what we tried to accomplish here is kind of put in writing how we came to the conclusion on some of our budget items. And what it is we kind of, when we first start doing a budget, we have to think about, anticipate some contingencies, so forth and so on. So within the document, you're going to see some listing, which one's forward? Is that forward? Yeah. You're going to see some listings of contingencies. These would be things like anticipating future HUD funding, anticipation of our inflation rate that we're experiencing now. We tried to anticipate occupancy, staffing level, all these different variables. And we even take it up to a more global of, the overall environment of our government, of the stability of Congress and how they're going to fund things. So what you'll find there is the various little contingencies. I'm going to read off some of these things that we had to anticipate this year for the 2023 budget. For 2022 and 21, the Housing Authority received COVID funding, right? No more COVID funding in this budget. It is over. We had to anticipate the staffing level, which was discussed earlier, of how full capacity we're going to be on our staffing. We tried to anticipate some of any kind of shortages, supply chain shortages, the drag on getting, it was just discussed earlier about air conditioned units, and getting parts. Capital funds, how much capital funds we're going to get for this year. Let's see, what else did we? Oh, sorry, I hit it again. Yeah, let me go back. Hold on, that was my fault. There we go. On this page right here, we tried to categorize the major expense items that we're going to budget. I think this is very interesting for the readers and for the board when you're doing future review of all kinds of financials. Right now, we anticipate that 80% of your funding, operating funding, for the housing authority is going to come from subsidy. We anticipate that of your expenses of the housing authority, approximately 50% of all disbursements is for the housing assistance payments. Salary consists of approximately 14.5% of costs. Some of the other things, utilities around 10% of the cost. So we go through these various items to try to anticipate these major categories and influx that they may have going forward. Right now, we anticipated inflation rate. We talked about that earlier. I think we anticipate that around 7%. We anticipated healthcare costs to be increased about 7%. The housing assistance payment cost, which is approximately 50% of your total dollars spent, we anticipate it's going to go up about 2%. And these are all inflationaries. These are not actual increase in costs, but anticipated increases. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. One thing that we're going to be working on this year is we're going to work on working with the different departments and coming up with better measurements on meeting budget objectives. In other words, when we're talking about rent, correlating rent on how we're going to budget, we want to directly correlate that to anticipated occupancy, which means we're going to have to bring in other departments to complete the budget. We're going to incorporate more of the maintenance operations and try to come up with a set of standard measurements on things like, how much paint. How do we come up with determination of how much paint we're going to need? All these different variables. And other than that, I mean, the documents out there, I try to verbally give everybody, because I know you can't see, but I tried to give everybody verbally what the document was trying to express.
I agree. I think the document spells out a lot of the work you guys put in. I know it was a long road to get to this point, and I appreciate your taking into account the input from everyone involved. And, I think it's a pretty in-depth report. I'm prepared to, I'd like to open the floor for discussion on this, but I'm prepared to open it up for a vote as well to approve. My one challenge to Ms. Foster and your team and the finance department is to really focus on these opportunities that you've identified for improvement and not waste the knowledge that you've gained over the last couple of months on this, and really go ahead and start implementing those changes that you need to make to have a better and more, I would say, illuminated process as you move forward. I'm sure you will.
Right.
Any discussion as to the presentation on the budget for fiscal year 2023?
No.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budgets for fiscal year end June 30th, 2023 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget is approved, and Commissioner Thompson voices her thanks along with all of the board. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, commissioners.
We'll move on to Department of Human Capital.
Ms. Calandra Mitchell, Director of Human Capital.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So Commissioners, today you have in front of you is a request to revise the human resource policy, working condition, and employee benefits. So the purpose of this request is to change payroll from every week back to every other week. So after several meetings between finance, executive, human resource, and then also listening to the feedback from the employees, we're making this request so that we can return back to biweekly pay. So also returning back to every other week will also save 10% and processing.
Ms. Calandra, why was it changed in the beginning?
That was a decision from the previous administration. I think that the question was, why was it changed?
And-
That was a decision from the previous administration.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so the suggestion has been well received by staff and everyone at HABD.
Right, so when it was changed, it actually was expressed by staff that they were not really happy about it being changed.
And I also want to add that it also provided an administrative burden on the finance department to do a weekly payroll. So this will release some of that burden from them as well.
Right.
And as we continue to move forward, I want to share that one of the things that we're doing is right now on a temporary capacity, we're outsourcing the payroll duties. And in doing that, again, if we convert back to biweekly, that'll provide us some savings on that side with that third-party service.
So this is the attachment, so it's not a whole lot of changes. So you will see under 2.1 the word other. So in red, it signifies the information that has been added back into the policy to support the every other week. And then under 7.0, here, you will see a vacation leave. You will see 26 in red, which signifies the change that reflects changing from 52 weeks to 26 weeks. And then under 7.2, you will see the breakdown of the accrual, how it accrue every bi-weekly. So all we had to do is just make the change back. So Commissioner, we're requesting your approval to revise the human resource policy, working condition, and employee benefit as identified in the attachment. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the revisions to the human resources policy as suggested.
So moved.
Second.
All opposed, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners. So Commissioners, next you have in front of you is a request for approval to restate the HABD money purchase plan, which is the employee's retirement plan. So periodically, the Internal Revenue Services require that all plan documents are updated for recent law changes or requires a plan to be restated every 6 years. So there have been no changes, but we're at our 6-year mark. And so we're bringing this in front of you. But before we go to the approval, I would like to just kind of give you guys a brief summary of our retirement. Okay. So for the HABD retirement summary 401A plan, the employee contribute 4% and HABD contributes 8%. For new employees, the retirement contribution begins once the employee successfully completes their introductory period. Employees' investment years, which is the funding that HABD provide, at 1 year, you get 20%, 2 years, 40%, 3 years, 60%, 4 years, 80%, and then at 5 years, you're fully vested. The retirement age is 65, and then you have an early retirement age of 55 with the completion of 10 years of service. In addition, the employees have an opportunity to borrow from their retirement, so they can borrow up to 3 loans, and they must be employed for 2 years before they actually are eligible, or they must be a former plan participant. So someone who may have left and then returned to the agency, then they would qualify, be eligible. And then the payback is up to 5 years unless you're getting it for home ownership, and then it could be extended all the way up to 15 years. It's pre-taxed, and then it's payroll deduction, and then the employee can also pay it off sooner if they would like. So that's just a brief summary of the HABD retirement summary plan for the 401A. So Commissioner, we're requesting your approval to restate the HABD money purchase plan.
Any comments or discussion from the board?
Just curious as to what's the current plan?
The current plan,
This is current plan.
you just restain the
We're
current
just
plan.
restating the current plan. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it.
And Commissioner Thompson, my understanding is this is kind of this is a statutory or regulatory process we have to do every 6 years. And if we
Correct.
don't-
Okay, got it.
They have
Okay.
done. Right.
So no changes, just making sure, and y'all are, this is what we do, basically. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Could you?
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the money purchase plan, third cycle restatement as suggested.
Okay,
So move.
second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to real estate development and capital improvements.
Is Cindy on here? I didn't even see her.
I believe we're set to hear from Ms. Herrera. Is
Yes,
she on?
I don't see Ms. Herrera on, but we always have Ms. Hilliard in the audience. Oh, there she is. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, commissioners, Ms. Foster, our residents. We have our real estate development update, and Terrain told me to take my time with clicking, not to go too fast, but typically this report and what we've been doing, I like to inform our residents, many of our staff is familiar with what we're reporting. We're reporting updates on what's happening with our sites and redeveloping them. Most of this information is about our ongoing projects. Something that's very important that's happening in your neighborhoods is our developer partners are coming to do site visits to reassess our public housing sites, to look at what we can do to give you quality, safe, sanitary housing moving forward. So the report is a summary of a lot of the details and conversations we are having with those developers. Many of those developers are nationwide developers that have helped other housing authorities throughout the community. I don't want to bore you all with reading some of this information if this is your first time hearing about it. But for many of our staff and Ms. Foster, and our commissioners, they're aware of what's happening as far as those communications and conversations. As far as Todd Homes, if I could speak about that site, we don't have, I don't think its latest updates, because I know we had to change from what we have in the system. It keeps showing up as Morton Simpson, which we know that our site developers have come out to assist so far. So we apologize if any previous reports, it kept saying Morton Simpson, so we've corrected that. And so that's what you see here on the screen at the beginning. Our choice neighborhood, we've been meeting with the Housing Authority, has been meeting with the city to reconvene the conversation of applying for the grant once it comes out. It's not out, but we have done the preliminary steps in talking with the city, taking a look at Smithfield Court as being our lead site to applying for that grant again. Moving on to Southtown Court. Southtown Court is overall demolition work is about 80% complete. Demolition is ongoing in block B and C. Buildings demolished and removed, and ongoing work includes removal of foundations, loading and removal of foundations and other related debris. If you haven't gone out to Southtown Court, I think you should go and take a look at the progress. Our staff internally has done a good job at communicating with the contractor with all of the weather delays, our historic preservation delay with the State Historic Preservation Group. We have still had a chance to move this project along. There's been some stoppage, but we're continuing to work and hoping to give our developers a good and clean buildable site. Some of those photos are here on the screen. They're small, but I encourage residents, like when residents call our development department, you can always take a look at some of this reporting on our website. So those photos are there. We'll make sure to work with public relations team to reveal some of these photos maybe on social media sites, so you all can see the progress for those who can't go to the site. I think our team has done a good job of making sure things are documented in a way that we can see the progress. For the commissioners, we are continuing that conversation on unsuitable soils. We have had strong communication with our A&E firm and with our contractor. We understand that how solicitation went out, it was through the architectural firm and they procured, well, the subcontractor was the engineering firm. So moving forward, we have worked with Ms. Foster and our procurement team to take a look at separating in the future the two entities when we look at redeveloping our other sites. But in the meantime, we are having strong communication on resolving the pricing of those unsuitable soils.
Is there any timeline on an anticipated resolution of that issue? I know it's come
I
up.
think
the
we're
last few meetings.
closer, if Ms. Foster would say, I think we're closer because, I mean, it comes down to it, Commissioner Pantaz, is people's time. And whether a contractor looks at their time and effort there or the HABD team, or we've had the delay from SHPO, we have to come to a common ground to know it was the betterment for our residents. And so those type of inside conversations, we look at documentation, receipts, and try to compare it to service hours. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And so we don't want to overload ourselves with thinking that a contractor hasn't done their due diligence, but we do have project specifications that we have to abide by. And so with that, we've completed the additional parcel acquisition and giving our complete site to that far end. I was told it's called the NIC. Maybe it's some type of entertainment facility. But that parcel of land was still in ALDOT's hands. So there's Alabama Department of Transportation.
So we on the NIC now?
No,
Oh.
but I was just trying to zero into
I was about to say.
the site.
Is it right next to it?
When people want to refer back to probably this recording, that this is the location, it's a parcel near the NIC. So
okay.
correct myself, it's a parcel near the NIC that HABD at some time ago in rezoning land, public housing. You see this happen across the nation. Public housing authorities may have that one sliver of land they forgot to file. And so we had to go back and do that. That paperwork got signed and we're hoping to cut that check to ALDOT. Our family housing and our senior housing, they have received legal documentation, ground lease documents to their attorneys from our attorneys. And we're working, Break Development continues to work on their updated construction numbers and final financing to move towards the closing in October. The senior housing, Benoit Group, they continue to work with Alabama Housing Finance Authority on the bond and 4% tax credit. We did have to go back and kind of work with them a little bit more tedious to our, I guess, agreement documents and our signatures. So those were like some minor things that Alabama Housing Finance needed, updated signatures, because we've changed in different personnel, et cetera. We've also provided in this report just more detail, because I think it was maybe a couple of board meetings ago, we needed to provide the commissioners with additional detail to how did we come to this point with the unsuitable soils. So your last 2 pages of the report are just a little more encompassing to what is happening. So you definitely can read that more in greater detail. Do we have any questions? And Ms. Foster, I did step in for Cindy. She did inform me, so, okay.
I think this is great. I appreciate all the updates from your team. Do we have this on our website after? I know we have the board packet, but do we make it really easy for everybody to access?
We
on the
do,
website?
and that's what I was mentioning earlier. We talked about working to probably put that more in the real estate development actual tab on the website. We have a lot of moving parts. We're trying to get the ribbon cutting ceremony started tomorrow, but we'll look to put that reporting maybe on that end.
Yeah.
So when you click on real estate development, it can pop out.
I think it's definitely something our residents and third-party
Yes.
partners combined are going to want to
Yes,
see it a lot.
I agree,
So we-
because I had a resident that called me pretty much every day, and she said, I appreciate your patience. She said, but I can't find it. And she said, give me a moment, I want to walk through it. So I had to walk through it to her, and it was hard for me to find the previous board packets. So we kind of talked about it internally, and we're going to work with our PR group to just put it in the real estate actual tab.
Yeah. And even just, I know we don't have I don't think we do a blog per se, but even just something that's kind of like, you wanted to find out everything that was out in July. Let's just make it easy to go find. And this and some other items too. I mean, I think the constituent concerns and some of the other things that have been brought up today would be great for everybody, but I think that'd be good, social media, just in hard copies if people want, stuff to look at. It's just information that's really helpful for everyone.
I agree, and we're duly noted that.
Any other comments from the board? Questions?
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is a history of Morrell Todd Homes.
We will have Mr. Seth Embry, our Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. All the attendees. So I'll just talk really briefly so you can get a sense of what this community is today. Obviously, it was renamed a couple years ago to the Reverend Dr. Morrell Todd community. But this community goes back many years. It was originally built to rehabilitate slums and substandard housing in this area of Birmingham and the Kingston area. And so it was planned originally as a 500-unit community of apartment homes on about 40 acres of land. The property opened in 1960, constructed at a cost of just about $6.5 million. And so today, Todd Homes is a community of 455 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units, housing 976 people in all of those units. So just a few statistics on the households here. The average size of the households are 2.4 persons, and average income is for each family is $9,762 a year. As you know, public housing serves very low and extremely low income people. And in Birmingham, that means for a family of 3, the income limit for extremely low income is $23,000 a year. Almost half of the families here at Todd Homes do have income from work. So these are working families. 56% of families have children, and almost a third of the families have a household member with a disability. Todd Homes has an active resident council. You'll hear from their president, Eldridge Knighton, after I go. And the last thing I want to mention is we're in the gym here, and next door, we do a lot of community center programming. And this is our last week of our summer camp and summer youth employment program. And so the staff here just finished a really vibrant summer camp. They did activities such as, your regular sports and arts and crafts, but also, as Ms. Foster indicated, tried to see some World Games activities, utilizing the Kingston Teaching Farm on some occasion. I saw that they picked some, I think squash and tomatoes or something like that. I'm not sure. But it's really active. The last 2 things I'll mention is that we recently had HUD does physical inspections of all public housing and multifamily properties, actually. And so we had ours here, I think last month, and we did really well. We scored an 84. So kudos to Ms. Foster, who's here. She's the manager at the site.
That's Talasia Foster.
Talasia Foster, yes. Yeah, Ms. Talasia Foster, and next to her is in the blue cap, Doug Crowder. He's the regional maintenance supervisor for the site, which is not to say that, we do have, like I said, 1960. So the property does have extensive, physical issues that we tried our best to maintain, but the team really did a great job. So I want to recognize you on the board meeting.
Yes.
A passing score for REAC inspection is a 60. And so our last score, I think, was a 77 or something like that. And so they, even through COVID and everything like that, they worked really hard, long weekend hours, staff did overtime and everything they could possibly do to get the scores to where they're respectful. But we do have a lot of work to do here. Any questions I could answer about this community?
That's great news. And again, kudos to the staff for getting everything ready to go. I know we do have a lot of work to do, though, to make things exactly what they need to be. So I appreciate all that.
I have a question.
Yes.
What did you say the average low income was for Todd Homes?
The average family household income here is $9,762, which, if you're curious, is a good deal lower than the average income of all HABD families, which is a little bit over 16,000. And so I couldn't, kind of go deeper into why that is or anything like that. We don't, it's illegal to concentrate people by poverty or anything like that. But it is, the households here do have lower income than most HABD households. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear from Ms. Knighton. Mr. Knighton, my apologies.
Yeah.
Good evening, how everybody doing?
Hey, good, how about you?
Once again, good evening, how everybody doing? All right, before I begin, I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. I didn't know I was on the schedule to do this, but once again, thank you. I want to acknowledge Ms. Lewis. Nice to see you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Darrell Washington, our former property manager, Ms. Foster, our active property manager, Mr. Mallory, Ms. Hope, Mr. Doug, all those my residents here in the community who's here today to come up and be a part. Ms. Jefferson, it's good to see you. It's so good to see you. When I started, you was the one that really that took me in along with Mr. Washington. So thank you. It's good to see you. When you talk about the history of Morrell Todd, which is formerly known as Morton Simpson Village, I am history. The residents here are history. Morton Simpson was built in 1957, 58, started housing in 59. This is 2022. We are 63 years old. We had over 500 units. Approximately maybe 46 to 50 of them was tore down due to lead. It was some years to where all this was abandoned. Maybe you had like 40-some residents from like 2002 up to like 2008. I think Howard Authority started housing back in 2009. I got an apartment here in 2010. I grew up here. This is home to me. I played basketball in this gym. I played for Ping. I love Morton Simpson. I love this community. There's nothing I wouldn't do for this community. When it came up for this community, when it came up for RAD, we was not even in the discussion. I remember like it was yesterday. Housing Authority had 7 sites that they had already selected for RAD. Loving Village, Southtown, Marks Village, Tom Brown, Collegeville, North Birmingham Homes, and Freedom Mountain. Those was the 7 that was already selected. When I went to that Board of Commissioners meeting, if I'm not mistaken, it was in 2017, probably the summer of 2017, something like that. I spoke up for my community to be put in for that 8th and final slot for RAD. It had been talked about coming in and just painting porches. We needed more than porches painted. We was falling apart badly. And on October the 23rd, 2017, the Board of Commissioners voted for the Morton Simpson for RAD to be approved. I was proud at that moment, at that time, for Housing Authority to vote our community to have that 8th and final slot. But it wasn't just about that 8th and final slot. This community has always been put in the back burner. Has always been put last. Avondale had Central Air and Heat. Other Housing Authority sites was against Central Air and Heat. We wasn't considered. And I felt it was time that Housing Authority started considering this community and to put us first, to at least think about us and give these people something better than what we already have. As I sat there, I got a phone call in 2020, I got a phone call from former Commissioner Cardell Davis asking me how did I feel about our name being changed from Morton Simpson to Morrell Todd Holmes. Well, I said, let's do it. Because Morton Simpson was not prisoner, but from my understanding, he was a white man that sat on the Board of Commissioners in 1951. So I tried my best to research. And I was like, let's do this. And Reverend Todd, he was one of those commissioners that voted for us. And not only that, but he fought hard to get stuff in here for our residents. So I was like, let's do this. And on June 8, 2020, the Board of Commissioners approved the name change of Morton Simpson Village to Morrell Todd Holmes. Reverend Todd have already served 2 terms as Board of Commissioners, and he stepped down in 2019. And I'm close with Reverend Todd. We talk almost every other week, if not every other day. So, but this community here, as you look, this gym, when we played those bleachers, they just put those in here some years ago. The air you feel in here, this was just put in here not even 3-4 years ago. The goals, we couldn't even run up and down the court because you had no room. But when I grew up as a child, we had things in here. Our residents had things, they had pottery, the elders had stuff in here. The gym will open up at 12 o'clock and close at 8. The children had tutoring. It was so much, even though the space was small, but we had. And this is all we had. So when I think about the history, I don't just think, I think about when I was a child, I think about the whole 9 yards. So I'm asking this before I sit down on behalf of Reverend Todd. And I say this here. When his name became on this site, I asked Housing Authority to consider to redevelop and give Reverend Todd his flowers before he passes away. Don't wait until he's dead and gone before you redevelop this site. Give the people here who have lived till 30 and 40 years, give them a new site, give them something to be proud of, because right now we're losing. And last but not least, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna sit down, Mr. Lundy said something. He was asked, could he live here on this site? That was the former CEO before Mr. North. And Mr. Lundy said, no, he couldn't live here. So I'm asking the Board of Commissioners right here, right now, could you live here? Ask yourself, could you live in these apartments to this day? Could you live in this site today at the way it is right now? And if you ain't gotta tell me no, say it to yourself. And if you can't live here, please go ahead and start redeveloping us. Thank you.
Mr. Knighton, thank you for your comments, and you give us a lot to think about. And I think I do speak for the rest of the board. The priorities you mentioned are things that we're focused on, and particularly the rapid redevelopment of some of our sites that need it, and this is one of them. So we promise to pay attention to what you just discussed. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
It looks like we got Chairman Hood with us. Mr. Chairman, anything you want to offer based on the agenda so far? I don't want to go without hearing comment from you.
First of all, good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry I'm up in Washington, D.C., and I joined as soon as I could. First, I appreciate Mr. Knighton for those words. He is a hardworking man in that community. I met him, I think, even before I came on the board. So really appreciate his passion and his leadership in that community. And I really appreciate Mr. Embry and giving us those statistics on the community. I think that's extremely helpful. And so I'd love to see us do more of that going forward as we continue to do our meetings out in the community. And then I will say, Vice Chairman, I think you've done a great job. I think it's been very efficient. Thank you for getting us through the agenda. Thank you for doing this in our stead. I think this is a good preview of your leadership come next year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do miss you, though. And you can come back anytime. This is all yours.
Yeah.
Be back Saturday.
We'll move on to the presentation for people that wish to speak before HABD, which has been previously, people had to sign up to do so. It looks like we have Tequila Ward, and we've got 3 minutes of
Is your name Tequila Ward? Oh. Did you get on the list?
Did you sign up with us?
Yeah, put your name on here.
All right, we come on up after Ms. Ward. Let's let her speak.
Yeah. Oh, but she can. Now, will somebody come get the sheet and take it to him?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll come bring it.
yeah, take it to him.
Is Tequila Ward here?
Huh?
Is Tequila Ward here?
Well, she didn't come up yet. Well, she just signed up.
All right, is Ms. Ward here? We have her on the list to
You have-
speak first. Okay. All right, so she has to leave. All right, anybody else signing up on the list?
You late, Miss. Okay, Miss Merchant.
All right.
Barbara Merchant, Harris Home President. As Mr. Knighton came up and brought concerns about his community, you all don't know, and the resident don't know, I lived in Kingston when I was a child.
Me too.
I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Kingston back then was a family community.
Yeah.
My mama name was Big Lois, and Big Lois would have that grill out there.
Yeah.
And she would barbecue, and she would invite people to come and eat. That's the kind of community it was. I went to Kingston School, then you had the store, and y'all might not remember, but we had a daycare.
Yeah.
So Kingston is really needed for redevelopment,
Right.
because it's the same way. But the people then would paint their porches and plant flowers because they cared about the community. And we got to get back to that. Regardless of what you all do, our residents got to care about their community.
Okay, you're up next. And now you gotta come up to the podium.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Darcy McKinnon. I've been here a resident here 11 years. Every morning I wake up, I look at the same faces of non-residents. Every night I go to bed, I look at the same face of non-residents. They think it's a problem with me because I like my lawn. That's grass. Stay off my yard. I have to argue with these people. I'm used to stuff. They didn't tell me what is lawn. You don't know what lawn is? You don't have to, you've been lived in the project all your life. It's what you know. But my thing is, I'm just really sick and tired of the people that don't live in the resident and the people not standing down and doing nothing about it. Nothing. They argue every night on my back. They pulling guns out every night on my back. When you call the police, it take them 30 minutes to get there. I don't know what happened to Corporal Willis, Levis, and Carter, but I need that crew back because they coming on time. I don't know what it is going on with the other new crew, the hot crew, police, whatever they be. But I'm just tired. I get out there and I dodge with them and talk to them. I ain't trying to make myself no different, but I ain't pulling guns and they don't see me every day. But just because I deal with you today don't mean I got to deal with you tomorrow. Don't be mad with me because I don't want you to sit on my porch. I do enough stuff by myself. I don't need no extra help getting put out.
Ms. Foster, I think those are some things we probably should follow up on. Is it okay with you?
Yes, absolutely. We have management here to have her name and know the unit. Yes, thank you.
Say that one. I didn't hear you.
I was saying that we have management present, so she knows her name and her unit, and we'll follow up on her concerns.
Okay, and much like last month, I'd like to hear some follow-up next meeting so we make sure everything's been taken seriously.
Will do.
Okay. Well, All right, thanks to all who presented and spoke today. We really appreciate it. I think the last thing before we adjourn is an executive session. I'm not sure what, is it a personnel or legal issue? I've tried to figure out why we're going to executive.
Well, we usually put executive session just in case you all decide to,
Okay.
if the needs arise, but if there's no need, we just.
Okay, I don't believe we need to then.
don't.
Chairman Hood, do you agree? No executive session today? Mr. Knight?
No.
Well, Mr. All right, Mr. Knight, we got 3 minutes if you want to come back up and talk.
Issue number one. Issue number one. Where's Officer Willis? He's gone. I'm asking the Board of Commissioners, I need something from you. On June the 5th of this year, I had a shootout in this community.
Oh, we went through that last.
And I was brutally attacked by the Birmingham Police Department. I was choked, I was slammed. After I took the police, after one of my residents called me and told me where the shooters was at and what apartment they had ran into. But due to the fact of my voice and how I speak up for this community, some of those police officers didn't like it. And I was brutally attacked, slammed, choked, slammed, had a knee put to the back of my head and pushed down to the ground. I'm asking the Board of Commissioners to set up a meeting with the chief of police, not just with me, but with the CPAB. So we can come together when it comes to the police serving our community. Last thing I want to speak on when it comes to those residents who are working in housing authority. Those residents who are paying $600, $700, $800 rent, how do we help them? What do we do when it comes to, because I'm getting a lot of residents complain about their rent, and I'm getting a lot of residents complain about stuff not being done when it comes to their rent. So, I mean, it's been a problem with that. So, I mean.
What do you mean when it comes to their rent?
I had one resident, she couldn't understand why her rent was so high. And then she said she had been paying her rent, but the rent office couldn't find her money orders. That money orders was being lost. So it's an issue with that. And I'm not blaming the rent office or nothing like that. And my condolences to Mr. Gray, who passed away, you know, but I understand being in a position that when you come in and you take over, you know what I'm saying, there's things left behind, but I want to find out what's, not me, but for those residents who are paying rent, and we can get them in the FSS program, self-sufficiency, whatever we got to do to help them with their rent, because I'm hearing a lot of residents might be getting evicted. So I'm just trying to speak up. So I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Those are really valid concerns. As to the first issue, I believe Ms. Foster probably can follow up on the police issue with you and see what can be done there. As to the rent issue as well, as you know, the rents are set by HUD. That's kind of set in stone, but there are, you know, ways for help if the requests are made. So one thing I always encourage, even if it's, you know, something you help them with, is to follow up with in writing with the Office of Constituent Concerns and make sure these requests are documented, because in that way we can make sure there's some accountability and following up for you and the other residents that bring those concerns to your table.
Oh, one more thing. I hadn't really met y'all either.
Ava Barnes.
Nice to meet you.
DG Fantastis. DG Fantastis. All right.
Attorney Crystal.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Knight. We'll take those under consideration. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
She said a curfew for non-residents.
I don't know if we really.
No, we just follow city curfew.
All right. I think we've moved on for comments. We will move, or I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting, hearing no executive session necessary.
So move.
Second.
We'll have to talk afterwards. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank y'all. Good meeting.